When you're eating to feed a feeling, not just a growling stomach, okay? So there is a difference. That's emotional eating. So I have up on the screen here the differences between physical and emotional hunger. And I want you to go ahead and read through those. And we're just going to talk a little bit about it. And if you're taking notes, write this down. Keep this list, tape this to your fridge. But I think it's really, really good to understand that there is a difference, right? And these are some key points that really will help you identify if you're eating to feed a feeling or if you're eating to feed your growling stomach. So eating to feed the feeling is emotional eating. When you're happy, your food of choice could be a steak or pizza. And then when you're sad, maybe it's ice cream or cookies. When you're bored, it could be potato chips. Food does more than fill our stomachs. And I think we can all relate to that. It also satisfies a feeling. And this is the truth. So we're not going to sugarcoat it and pretend like emotional eating doesn't exist, right? It does. And food does satisfy feelings. But the problem is that when you quench those feelings with comfort food, when your stomach isn't hungry, when it's not growling, right? That's emotional eating, and that over time can really lead to a problem. Emotional eating essentially is eating for reasons other than hunger. So instead of the physical symptom of hunger initiating the eating, an emotion triggers the eating. So I'm going to say that again. And if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. Instead of the physical symptom of hunger initiating the eating, an emotion triggers the eating. So that's the difference. We'll talk about some telltale signs of emotional eating in a minute. But let's look at this chart really quickly. So physical hunger, it builds gradually, right? It occurs several hours after a meal. It goes away when you're full. It can be satisfied with a variety of foods, and eating leads to feelings of satisfaction. Now, here is where the difference comes in, ladies. Emotional hunger develops suddenly. It's unrelated to time. It causes specific cravings, so think chocolate, ice cream, comfort foods, etc. And it persists even if you're full. And lastly, and this is the worst part of it all, it leads to feelings of guilt. So most of you on the call said that yes, too often you have fallen prey to feeding your feelings. I want you to tell me now if you've ever experienced the guilt that comes after emotional eating. So give me a yes if you can relate to that every time. Yep. Yes. So yeah. So, okay, this is really interesting because everybody's not just writing yes, they're writing every time I do it, right? It's every time. And it's crazy. And Sharon even said yes, and nausea. Yeah, it literally, you could eat yourself sick. It's crazy. But, we've all done it. We've all been there. And it's a really tough thing to overcome. And the thing about it is, it really leads to spiral, doesn't it? Because we emotionally eat and then we feel guilty. And then that feeling of guilt, that's an emotion, right? So it triggers more emotional eating. And then it's just downward, downward, downward spiral. And so the key is to really nip it in the bud, right? We want to stop it right away, and we want to learn tools to help ourselves deal with it. So the first tool that I want to teach you tonight is how to tell the difference. And I really want you to get this, right? I don't want you to just see this as a chart that, oh, pretty colors, whatever. Kate made a fancy PowerPoint. No, I really want you to learn to be able to tell the difference. Let's work on this together. There are several distinctions between emotional hunger and physical hunger, and we ran through the list, but I want to talk a little bit more, okay? Emotional hunger, it comes on suddenly. Physical hunger comes on gradually. So when you're emotionally hungry, right, you've gotten home from a really long day, or I'll just use myself as an example. I've had a long day with Jackson, right? And he finally goes down for his nap. I'm not hungry. We just ate lunch, but I'm like, oh, like I just want to sit on the couch with, whatever from my pantry, a jar of peanut butter, whatever cookies, or, it could be whatever that you're craving, but it comes on suddenly. Whereas physical hunger, I'm busy throughout the day and I'm like, oh, I'm starting to get a little hungry, but I'm, continuing on with what I'm doing. And then an hour passes, I'm like, oh, my stomach's really growling, right? You actually feel your stomach growling. Now, when I'm emotionally eating, I never feel my stomach growling. In fact, usually I'm not even hungry, but I've had an emotion that triggers the need to eat, right? So I'm feeding my feelings. That's what we want to get away from. When you eat to fill a void that isn't related to an empty stomach, you really do tend to crave a specific food. So it could be pizza or it could be ice cream. And it feels like in that moment, only that food will meet your need. So if you're tracking with me and, we're all just going to be honest. So it's all us just together, right? If you can relate to that, if you've ever felt like only a specific food will meet your need, I want you to tell me yes. So get down in that chat box. Please don't tell me I'm the only one. Yes. Yep. Chocolate, sugar, Mountain Dew. Ooh, that sounds good. Ghirardelli brownies. Pudding. Yeah. So it's like you get in this mindset like, oh, I have to have pudding. Like, nothing else will do. It must be pudding. Nothing else will do. It must be brownies. It must be chocolate. That's a sign that it's an emotional eating trigger and not a physical hunger. Okay. So that's an emotional hunger, not a physical hunger. We want to pay attention to these cues. Emotional hunger feels like it needs to be satisfied instantly with the food you crave. Physical hunger can wait. So again, with whatever you're craving, you need it immediately. Like, oh, I have to have this right now. Usually, when we're physically hungry, oh, I'm getting hungry. I'm getting ready to eat. But there's not the immediate need for that food. So that's another cue. Here's another one. Even when you are full, if you're eating to satisfy an emotional need, you're more likely to keep eating even when you're full, right? So if you're eating because you're hungry, you're more likely to stop when you're full. This is really interesting and it's silly because we make ourselves sick, right? We eat until we are literally like so stuffed, we need to go and get on stretchy pants. Yeah. So, okay. Cheryl said, I need something sweet after dinner. So she's had a dinner, right? A good dinner. And she's probably full. She's not hungry anymore. But it's like, oh, I finished my dinner. Now I need something sweet, right? Are you hungry? No, probably not. It's just an emotional need. Like, oh, I really want that sweet food. Nothing but sweet food will do. It's interesting because I taught bikini boot camp this morning and we had a lady in boot camp. I don't think she's on the call tonight, but she just got back from vacation and I know she wouldn't mind me sharing. And she said, look, Kate, it's crazy because I literally ate so much that I felt sick. She's like, I was in pain. And she's like, I couldn't believe it because, I would be like telling my husband the night after dinner, oh, please do not let me eat this much tomorrow. Like, oh, like, I shouldn't have had that dessert. I wish I hadn't had it. I don't feel well. I have a headache, whatever. And then she'd go through the whole day. And then when it come time for dinner again, they're out on vacation, whatever. She's like, well, it's vacation. I already got off track yesterday. I'll do better when I get back. If you can relate to that, tell me like, yeah, you can totally relate. Yes. Okay. So she was sharing that with me. I can relate. And it looks like from this, yes, many, many, many of you can relate as well. And it's exactly right. Suzanne said, and it leads to a lot of weight gain. So it's an unhealthy behavior. So in addition to, the weight gain and it just being terrible for your health, it leaves you feeling guilty when you're emotionally eating, but when you're physically eating for hunger, so for physical hunger, you don't have those same feelings, right? You feel good, you're fueling your body. There aren't those same feelings of guilt and right? So we want to get away from that. Our goal, with Beyond Fit Life is to live what? Healthy, happy, and balanced. So that is what we are all about, right? It's not a strict crazy diet that's saying you can never have a Ghirardelli brownie, but we are saying, look, you know, watch for cues of emotional eating. Get it under control. Let's practice this together and really practice living a balanced life. I don't know about you, but when I was struggling with emotional eating, I was not happy. You aren't happy, right? Because it's a battle. You don't want to have to deal with that fighting inside yourself day in and day out. We're going to learn the tools we need tonight and we're going to practice them throughout the month so that you don't have to do that anymore.